Hi, everybody. Welcome to the channel. I'm Jenel, and this is Aetherius, my wonderful co host for the
Hi.
evening. And tonight we are going to be playing The Voice in the Woods. Um, this is going to be very much so a psychological horror. So I have a couple trigger warnings to list off at the beginning of the stream.
Knock them right out.
Bears, insects, drowning in deep ocean, life stresses, dealing with identity and family, and horror, gory slasher things. So if any of those are triggers for you, I feel like we went over so much variety right there.
Yeah. I was asked for six fears. And it went from bears to some more existential stuff. But I will say to the like one, and I don't think that this is spoiling out or spoiling anything, but there is like an identity thing that my character is navigating that they kind of have already successfully navigated. Really, the folks that they haven't um completed that with are the folks that are referenced in the fear. So they've kind of done their chosen family, gone around, and they're like comfortable within themselves, but there's kind of one last hurdle remaining. And so just on that front, make sure we like we'll make sure to handle that responsibly. I have like full faith in us.
Yeah, so without further ado, we're gonna dive right into this. Um, there is a very specific way that we start this game, and the way that we do that is all I say to you is, you are alone in the heart of the woods in the middle of the night. What would you like to do?
Um in the immediate, like irrespective of visibility, I want to turn on the flashlight that I
Okay.
packed.
You
Um,
go ahead and turn on the flashlight. It illuminates the woods directly in front of you. And you see that the trees here, you're by yourself and it's dark and there's that feeling of maybe I'm just seeing things. But the trees
mm,
are taller than you expected. They lean over and almost bend towards you in this eerie way. Most of the branches are almost leafless. Some of the trees kind of look like they're on the edge of dying. Like, it does not look like a healthy forest around you, but beyond
mm.
the flashlight, it is just pitch darkness. Did you come into the woods with anyone, or are you here on your own?
um, to elevate the psychological fear factor here, I think that I would feel tremendously like more secure with the second person. So I'm going to say that I'm here alone. I'm going to say that I
Okay.
came for whatever reason. I am out here completely solo.
Could you describe your character as you make your way farther into these woods? What do they look like? What expression do they have currently?
Sure, I think that there is this like hypervigilance that's very apparent in my character's face. My character's name is Isaiah Strong. He is 24 years old. He is biracial, he's Blasian, so he's half black and half Asian. And he is in that weird kind of post-college to adulthood limbo that a lot of us like navigate. Um, he is openly gay to all but two folks. And those two folks may or may not come up during this session. And so he has done the thing of going to his chosen family and the folks that he trusts and the people where he feels safe and has shared and come out to them. And so he does have, not in this moment. I think in this moment he's like terrified, but he has found like a sense of safety outside of the woods in that kind of self-actualization. But now being in the woods with nobody to accompany him, seeing that the forest is like playing tricks, I definitely think that we see him like wide-eyed and like not expressionless, but like is putting every amount of like mental RAM into self-defense, or just like that
Okay.
reptilian, like I have to look for
So
a
very on
any kind of threat.
edge, very perceptive right
Yes.
now, like just kind of looking out for anything that could be a threat.
Mm-hmm.
As you move deeper into the woods, looking around, looking for a potential threat, you do hear off to the left side like some creaks, possibly an animal crunching on a leaf, some twigs snapping. And because you're in like this alerted state, you immediately look to that side. And you see just a pair of two red eyes very low to the ground, looking out from behind a tree. Do you do anything?
Oof. I'm gonna cut the flashlight. Um,
Like
as
turn it
to like
off?
attempt, yeah.
Okay.
As like an attempt to not draw attention to myself, and I think I'm gonna like really hyper fixate on these two eyes. Like if I see them move away, I'm going to move away. If they remain, I'm kind of, we're at a bit of an impasse because I'm like paralyzed with fear right now.
As you turn off the flashlight, you notice that it goes from two red eyes to almost 1,000 in the darkness behind this tree, and they are all kind of staring at you.
Oh no. Okay. I'm gonna return power to the flashlight. We're gonna give that a click, and I'm gonna try to shine light as to ascertain what is the source
Sure.
of these. I'm assuming if I see one, I could extrapolate that this is what the rest are.
So, with that, I'm going to ask you to make our first roll of the game.
Ooh.
For everybody at home, the way this works is Aetherius has two dice. I just put up four. Two dice. They are two different colors. He has one that we are calling the dreamy color and one that we are
Mhm.
calling the blood color. The dreamy die is our regular rolling die. When we face dangers such as this, he will roll that die. If he gets a 1, 2, or 3, that's a failure, and we'll deal with that when it happens. And if he rolls a 4, 5, or 6, that is a success. Though he can also choose to roll both of his dice for the chance to get more numbers, obviously, get a higher roll, potentially pass it. However, the risk with doing that is if the number on the blood die on your dread die is higher than one of your fears manifests in the forest. So that is like the core mechanic of this game. It's pretty straightforward. It's not super complicated, but yeah.
Okay,
So it's
that's
up to you.
really, really fascinating. Just like mechanically, but also specifically like with the list of fears that I gave you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really do cover a wide gamut, so this is going to be fun. So I am rolling the in my head I'm going to call them the good dice and bad dice. So it's
Sure.
bloody and dreamy. I'm rolling the dreamy.
Yes, and if you want, you can roll both, but you don't have to.
Okay, we're gonna start. Maybe we'll do some risk reward when I'm feeling a little bit more confident,
Sure.
but we're gonna start off the evening.
Totally makes
Ooh,
sense.
that's a six. That's a
Oh my
six.
gosh.
That's good,
Yes,
right?
starting off
Yeah.
great.
Hmm.
So you turn the flashlight back on and like take a step closer to see what is going on. Like so much fear. But the second the flashlight goes on, you see that there is like 20 squirrels that are
Oh
like
god.
comically like piled on top of each other. And the second the
Okay.
flashlight goes on, they scurry up that tree and are out of sight.
I am like going to put my back against a tree and just breathe for a second because I was 100% sure I was going to get like cryptid murdered right there. So, ooh, okay.
As you like kind of relax in this moment, thinking to yourself that the fear, maybe it is just in my head. Like, those are very normal animals. That was a very easy situation to move past. There is almost this calming sound in the forest. Like, the eerie kind of whistling goes away momentarily, and you do have like this little reprieve to yourself. But as you are here with just your thoughts, where does your mind start to drift after?
Um, I think that there would be, especially because he's closer to college, I think that there might be some like poetic thinking in Isaiah's mind. He may be comparing the feelings of lostness and the lack of a strong sense of direction that he feels in this forest. I think is very much something that he feels kind of existentially like in his life. From what I remember back in my day, from what I remember of that post college period, um yeah, there is like an anxiety to it. You've kind of checked every box that you were supposed to. And it's now what, you know? So I think he might be thinking his mind might return to that sense of like directionlessness that to him extends past the woods into even his real life. So
As you start to think about that, you kind of almost get lost in that moment, almost taken out of the woods, as if your mind is like trying to pull you away and like into this other space of anxiety. And you don't see it necessarily, but you feel a looming presence. It could
mm,
be like the weight of your this stress about the next part of your life, but it almost feels like a manifested physical form looming over you. And as like you kind of like snap back to yourself, you feel and see in front of you like a shadow starting to loom behind you. What do you do?
and and have I ever in my life seen like a shadow behave this way before? Is there any mistaking this for like a trick of the light?
I mean, you're in the woods. There are very tall trees. It could be a tree, but like the shape of it, I would say, is more like dome rounded.
Ooh.
It, it. There's no way to know unless you look.
Um, okay, I am the little reprieve that I have has been like abruptly ended by another cortisol spike, another like fight or flight moment. I think I'm like steeling myself to run, like preparing myself, kind of bending my knees a little bit and readying myself to pivot away from this thing and sprint if necessary. But I think after the mishap with the squirrels, I think that, you know, when you like kind of do something silly and you're alone and you're like, oh my God, like, so that
Yeah.
I'm probably like superimposing, you know, I'm in the woods, it's creepy. Um, but on that little bit of case that Isaiah sees some spooky shit, I think he's um, got his knees bent kind of at the ready to sprint. And he's going to turn and he's going to shine the flashlight at the shape. He's going to open both eyes and look at it.
All right, I'm gonna need another roll.
Oh, shit. I feel like I exhausted my good rolls right away. shout out
Hey, you might just
to
roll sixes this entire time, face no fears.
so I rolled a 3.
Oh, or not. You can choose if you want to also roll your dread die, or you can take the failure. Totally up to you.
Oh, okay. If I took the failure,
Yes.
um, what would happen? Or are
You're
you
going
not
to
allowed
have
to
a
say?
negative outcome from this action.
Okay.
Now, if you roll the dread die, you could possibly pass and not have a negative outcome, but you also may manifest a fear if it's higher than the other number.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So a success on the dread dice would be
All you have to do is get a 1 to, because you only need 4 to succeed the roll, and they
oh,
would add together.
got it.
So
But if I roll more than 3,
then we manifest a fear, but you would still succeed in this roll. The manifested
okay.
fear would happen later.
Oh geez. Oh geez.
At a
Okay.
time of my
I'm like,
choosing.
it's not great either way. I don't think that there's like a non-psychologically disorienting answer to this. Please be kind. That is a 5.
Great. Love it. Okay. You go ahead and with your successful outcome from this roll, you flash a light and you do see that it was just a tree that was leaning over. You know, this is the second time you've been walking through these woods. Every time you take the initiative to look something scary in the face, it's proven to just be mundane. You're starting to get that voice in the back of your head saying, there's nothing to be afraid of here. It seems creepy, but there's nothing inherently wrong with the darkness in these woods. There's nothing wrong with nature. If anything, like, it's a very peaceful place to be, and maybe you just need to calm your nerves and embrace that a little bit more. And you now have this little boost of confidence from the fact that you've now looked at 2 scary things and they've been fine.
Okay.
Do you want to continue into the woods, or are you looking to possibly like bunker down for the night?
Hmm. When I look at the horizon, is there anything like immediately like identifiable? Do I see any buildings for where I'm at, or is the cover and the kind of brush of the trees so thick that I cannot see outside of the woods?
You don't seem to see glimpses of civilization outside of here. Looking up,
Yeah.
you do see like the sky. You see a beautiful night sky filled with stars and a very large full moon. There don't appear to be any buildings on the horizon, just forest and forest for as far as you
Okay.
can see.
So I think I'm going to um I in his mind, Isaiah is designating, and this is relatively illogical because it's not how like woods or reality works, but he thinks that from where the squirrels were to the other thing that was not scary is somewhat like of a safe zone in his brain, having like, shined a light and seeing that. I think he would stay there because if that did happen again, if he did see something like really, really scary, he'd at least be able to like with some reason say like, oh, that's probably just the reflection of something or a trick of the light. So I think he is going to kind of clear the brush in an area because I feel like I haven't been camping in forever, but I feel like that's a good way to not get bugs is to
Yes.
like clear the brush, make sure it's all good. And he's gonna take his like shitty little Amazon tent out.
You take your tent out. I assume you start to put that in place. It takes you a little bit, but nothing crazy. In about 30 minutes, you have this nice little tent built. The air around you does seem to chill quite rapidly to the point where it was probably like high 60s up until this point, and then within like the last 10 minutes you feel the temperature drop down to almost freezing. Like you're definitely in the
Hmm.
30s ish, low 30s. And so you get cold. Your mind goes to two paths, which are you could try and build a fire, or you could bundle up with the supplies that you've kind of brought and just try and just use your own body heat at this point in your tent. Which do you think you would be leaning towards?
Part of me almost wants to do both, but that really, like build the fire, stay by it to like warm up in the first place, and then go back and sleep or like sleep next to the fire, which seems dangerous. I don't know if you're supposed to sleep next to like
I mean,
unattended fires.
we do, but it's
So, okay. I am going to I think attempt to start a fire. What's funny is that like Isiah is freezing. Aetherius, it's like it's 30 degrees here where I live now, and it's tropical. You'll like have to stop folks from like being in full on shorts. Like if it is but if it doesn't physically hurt to be outside, then that's like
we are
the
wildly different people. I grew up in
Midwestern.
Florida. I could not.
I go any like southern state and I'm just like, oh my God, just in air conditioning. Like, what the hell? Why? So I think Isiah, however, is going to attempt the fire. I think like the idea of casting light into the immediate area would circumvent any of the same old, trick of the lights from happening. So he's gonna start a fire.
All right. As you walk out away from this little clearing that you've made, looking for things that you can use to build a fire, looking for dry pieces of wood, you start to walk in a direction to where you can barely see the clearing behind you. And every step you take, the ground kind of gets more wet. You start to hear, your feet kind of sloshing in mud. The mud is like kind of going up and up your boots until you finally get to a point where the mud is going past your boots, and you think that we should probably turn around and try a different direction. But as you turn around, you start to feel rain drop down on you from above. And looking up into the sky, like it's just like almost a waterfall of torrential downpour happening. And as you turn and try and make your way back to your clearing, even though where you came from should have been more out of the mud, you are sinking down and farther. Could you please make a roll?
Oh, this sounds like nightmarish onto itself. Like the idea of walking into mud that like goes up to my thigh is horrifying. Oh, okay. So that's a 2. We don't love that.
As you take steps further and further, you're sinking down and down until very quickly your body is sinking into this mud until you are almost completely pulled under.
Oh
But
shit.
then you're not in mud. You are underwater looking up at a light that is starting to very quickly vanish. It is getting
Mm.
darker, and you look beneath you, and it is just black abyss as you float down. Do you try and swim back up? Do you
Yes. Audience, this is one of my actual fears that made it into the game. So like something in my limbic system was like, you know what? If maybe if I do this, I can save this fictional character. Maybe if I wave my arms and swim.
So when we face one of our fears in this game, we make a different kind of roll.
Hmm.
When you face a fear, you say where the fear comes from when you first experienced it. So when did Isiah first experience this fear? What trauma caused it?
Yeah. So Isaiah comes from like a mixed race family. He's both black and Asian. And so there was a side of his family that he didn't really know as well, the Asian side. And so he's able to spend some time with his mother's side of the family, which is predominantly Asian American, and they own a nice house on a lake. And so they have a bunch of cool lake shit, like jet skis and like the tube that and one of the things that they have is a big trampoline, like one of those floatable trampolines that is floated out next to a dock. You can swim out to the dock, climb on it, and then jump onto this trampoline. And when Isaiah is about 7 or 8 years old, he is too cool to have a life jacket. He's like, safety is for nerds, living is for nerds. And so
Sorry,
he
continue.
jumps on the trampoline, and in like shouting, trying to get the attention of his mom, he miscalculates and jumps straight down into the lake. And without the like life jacket, kind of the force through which he jumped down, is it's hard to like immediately reverse course. And so he has this horrifying moment where, not dissimilar than what's happening now, it becomes a little bit darker the lower he gets. His foot touches the bottom of the lake, which is covered in seaweed, which is super gross. And he has this moment where he swims up to the top and is screaming and trying to get the attention. He sees that folks are running his direction. And then he goes down again for the second time. He doesn't really know how to tread water. And so he goes to the bottom. This time, it seems even more scary because he's now tired at this point because he's had to swim up this lake twice. And so from then on out, he has a deep-seated fear of like very deep open water that's not chlorinated, or essentially that isn't in a pool. So that has stayed with him this whole time.
In this moment, you relive that memory and you feel something kind of wrap around your ankle, and you look down and there is like this dark seaweed that is pulling on your ankle, pulling you farther down. To face a fear, you roll a dread die as many times as you have previously faced a fear. So because this is our first time facing a fear, you only get to roll it once. And
Hell
to
yeah.
overcome the fear, you have to get a 6. If you get a 1 through 5, the fear takes over. And we move on to the next way this game gets played.
Oh, that's it? That's all?
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, casual 6. I already rolled, I think, my 1 6 I'm going to get this evening. I got that out right away. It's a 3.
So you feel this seaweed pulling you down. You start to panic. You feel the water start seeping into your mouth from like going to scream. And you are presented with 3 options in this moment. You hear a voice in the back of your head say, "You can embrace your fear. You can escape your fear. Or you can resist your fear. Which do you choose to do?"
To me, embracing feels like kind of self-sabotage. I'd be using the self-checkout lane in my mind. If I embrace the fear, I guess in my initial interpretation of that.
I can give you further explanations. So,
Yeah, yeah.
for embracing your fear is you accept it as a part of you. You describe how this calms you and then continue on your journey. To escape from your fear is to escape from the woods and end your journey. To resist your fear by clutching one of the items you carry with you, not yet marked. So you can use one of each item in this journey to resist your fear. After you use it, you talk about how you use this to oppose and dispel your fear, and then we kind of mark it off on the character sheet, and we continue.
I feel like my shrink would say embrace the first option's probably ideal.
You do what you
Maybe not in
want.
this precise context, but generally, I think the idea of the realizing that fear is kind of an inextricable component of life and a component of himself. This is a very profound train of thought for a 24-year-old to have. So I'm
Sure.
like trying to
Yeah.
think.
He might not feel that way yet. That might be
Mm,
something he does later on. You also got
right.
those three items.
And let me. I know.
Oh,
It's
we can go to our character sheet page and we can all see
Hey
what we're working
everybody,
with.
so sorry. There's no audio in this section. We didn't realize that the audio was not on this scene, but in this part we were just talking about the character sheet and how Aetherius' character Isiah had 6 spheres and 3 items listed out, and how you can use those items to resist your fears. So we were just discussing that, and then we got right back to the story.
carving knife that I brought with me to sever the connection of the seaweave and then make like a frantic break for the surface.
Absolutely. You are able to bend down in the water and get the seaweed off your foot. You slice through it, and you see it like rapidly recoil, almost as if it was like an animal being like cut off. And as you swim frantically to the top of the water, you're swimming and swimming, and at first it almost feels like it's too far away to get to, and then there is an undercurrent that comes up beneath you and pushes you all the way to the top. And as you break through the water and are gasping, you realize you are on solid ground. You're back in the woods, and there is not a drop of water to be seen around you.
Okay. So I Blair Witching myself? He is thinking, is this like, is the Blair Witch coming from inside the house? I think is the first question that he would kind of like, oh, I think he would think he's like, I've had no edibles today. I'm
Sure.
not consumed any like suspicious looking mushrooms during my time here. He's gonna try to eliminate all of the things that might, and I think the last possibility that exists in his mind is exhaustion. That's the only thing. This is like a terrified, isolated mind making an attempt to make sense of the unfathomable. And so I think he is going to he's going to have to chalk this up to exhaustion. He must have been a lot more tired than he realized. Um, and yeah, he's just gonna keep telling himself that.
As you're thinking this must be exhaustion, there's no other explanation for it. Um, you're not wet any longer, but the temperature once again drops significantly.
Mm.
Do you continue to look for wood to make a fire in this exhausted state, or do you cut your losses and go back to your clearing?
Mm. So he's weighing in his mind, if I go back now, I could cuddle up with like the materials, make a break, try to see if I have enough kind of just blankets or things at camp to keep me warm. But then all of this would have been for nothing. Like he would have gone through this experience. I think he's like, if I am this exhausted, um, I might as well like power through, get the wood, go back, then I can relax and be warm. He's gonna let the cold um motivate him. I think the more that he sees his breath, the more that he feels kind of like the it eventually turns to almost heat how cold it is. The more motivated he is. He's really searching around for anything combustible, wood or wood adjacent. He's going to take.
Okay. Go ahead and make a roll with your dreamy die.
Mm-hmm. 4.
There we go. With this new vigor, this like, I need to find this, I need to get this done now, a mentality, you are able to find dry pieces of wood very quickly, stack them together. You're carrying them. You're not even feeling exhausted as much anymore. Like, clearly you have the energy to do this. And you successfully found plenty of wood to make a fire. You carry this back to the clearing where your tent is, and it almost seems to get a little bit warmer. It seems to get a little bit more bearable. Like, it was starting to get biting cold right before you found the wood, but when you did, it was almost like things leveling out back to normal. And now you find yourself back in the clearing. You're able to set up the wood in a little triangle and get some flint and start a fire underneath it. And within like 15 to 20 minutes, you have a pretty good fire going. Did you bring any food in your pack? Are you hungry?
I'm gonna assume I have Nature's Valley or 10 in there, right? Like I think I came prepared. I like minimum have like the camp staples. Like I'm assuming I have bottles of water, some like trail mix, just snacks like that, like protein bars. So I think we're gonna have Isiah is going to absolutely house 2 lemon cake protein bars and wash them down with some of the bottled water from his pack.
Great. You consume that. You're feeling full now and calm. You have your little sanctuary here. Things are going well. There was the little hiccup with the drowning before, but clearly that was a figment of your imagination. We're back on track. Everything's going great. As the night progresses, the fire starts to dim a little bit, but it's still going. You begin to hear noises from back behind you. Sort of like a scraping sound and like big thunks. In front of you, beyond the fire, the sound of crickets goes up an alarming amount. So in front of you, you have like this noise of insects and woods that kind of gets very heightened all of a sudden. And behind you, you hear this thumping noise. Do you choose to investigate either sound?
Oh boy. I'm really, really like immersing myself into this. And definitively I would not head towards if there were any sounds or signs of insects, I would be out. I would know about. So there's no way. There's nothing that's interesting enough. There's no results there that would be good, right? Like even if it's just a cricket, that's still lame.
You can also choose to just get in your tent, close the door too. Like you don't necessarily have to investigate either sound. You tell me, with hearing these noises, what would your reaction be?
Well, the first two times there was something mysterious. Isaiah was able to alleviate some of his fears by just like looking directly at them. Um, and so I think he would be thinking about that to some extent. I think it'd be, I think he would check because I imagine it would be incredibly difficult to sleep in that tent with the crickets volume rising, with like the noises. The crickets he's made peace with, this is their forest. He's just in it.
Sure.
He like completely respects his new cricket gods, but whatever's in the other direction, I think he might go and check out.
All right, you get up. Your fire is still going, but low. You turn around and make your way behind the tent. As you are walking this way towards this thumping, stomping noise, uh, please give me another roll.
Can I do the quintessential hello into the dark?
Absolutely.
Okay, here we go, y'all. Rolling. That's a 3. So,
Would you like to use your dread die or take the 3?
okay, so if I use the dread die, even if
Yes.
I succeed, I'm kind of opening Pandora's box for later, right? Like I'm kind of
Yes.
just delaying.
But you
Okay.
would succeed at what you're doing right now.
So the like drowning, that felt like there's really two outcomes to this. It didn't seem like there's a lot of like you either stay underwater and like not make it or get out of the water. Here it seems like there's a wider spectrum of possibilities. And so based on the fact that I don't know what this is, the red eyes were squirrels. The other thing was just a trick of the light in the woods. I am gonna breathe through my nose, and I'm going to. I'm not gonna use
Okay.
my dread dice.
Um, with this 3 walking towards the stomping noise, you end up kind of tripping over a root, that a gnarly root that kind of comes out of the ground that you didn't see, and you fall on the ground. Your hands are already still dirty from before when you had come up gasping, and this kind of like reminds you of that for a moment. And instead of freaking out, you just still yourself, breathe. That wasn't real. That wasn't real. But that stomping is still happening. And you look up and you see far off in the distance a very large shadow in the shape of some kind of creature. But for now, it passes by. But you are very aware that there is a large living creature in this vicinity.
Oof,
What would you like to do?
man, Aetherius, which I knew any like bear safety stuff to do like at a campsite. I've seen videos of bears just straight up rolling in someone's cabin, like just eating all their Lucky Charms, taking full bare hands of their food. And so that would communicate to me. I'm working this out out loud in real time. That would communicate to me that if this is a bear, bears are attracted to food. And there is food at the campsite or food around the campsite. Um, I think that Isaiah would begin to fret and begin to worry. Um, he hasn't moved from the place where he fell. Like all of this thinking is happening kind of really rapidly. He's gonna look back toward the fire and where the camp is and head back that
Okay.
way. Um, I think he's going to keep like a protein bar or two. Um, but, and this is probably not even, I feel like I don't know if this would save you from wildlife. This will be interesting. But he's going to take it and he's going to like try to bring the food, which is in like a seal, is like tied up in like let's say maybe like 50 to 60 feet away, so that it's like, you know, he doesn't have to completely you know, walk all day to go get it, but it's seemingly far enough away, and he's hoping that the like one remaining little bag of trail mix he has is not enticing to wolves or bears or square bears, squirrel bears, or whatever it is.
All right. As you try and make like this safety net diversion for yourself as you're in the process of moving the food farther away from your camp, go ahead and make another roll.
It's another 3.
Once again, would you like to use your dread die or take the 3? I will remind you, you are rolling for bear safety right now.
Yeah. I feel compelled to use the dread die. I think I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna use the dread die.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Just get below a 3. No big deal.
Oh shit, dude.
What you got?
That's a 4. That's
Okay.
a 4. So
You get your food. You think that it's pretty secure. You tie it up on like a higher branch that is fairly far away from your campsite, and you begin to walk back to your campsite. You don't necessarily hear any sounds around you. That thumping noise has gone. But as you walk back to your campsite, you notice that the fire looks like it is getting farther and farther away, not closer. And you pick up your pace and start to move towards it. As the noises in the forest, that chirping before, starts to get unbearably loud around you, almost as if it is like just consuming you. It's getting so loud. It's not just crickets now. There's like this other noise that's starting to take over your ears. It's all that you can hear now as it gets louder and louder. And you can feel something crawling on you. There, you look down at your legs, and at first you don't see anything, but then you feel it on your arms, and you look to your arms, and there are little spiders crawling across one arm, and you try and shake them off. And then as you look to the other, there are like cockroaches that are like starting to swarm all over you, and it's the noise in your ears is threatening to burst your eardrum. It is so loud, and you are covered. As you are faced with this fear, you can roll now, because you've already had one fear that you confronted. You can now roll your dread die twice, and we need a 6 for this fear not to take over.
just a casual 6. Sorry, one quick moment. I'm realizing.
Yes.
I meant. There we go. Sorry. I am keeping an eye on the Chizat. Okay, excellent. I've rolled a 6 before in my life.
Yeah, you can do it.
You know,
It's not that hard. You know
I get
this.
2 rolls at this.
Yeah, you get two shots to get a 6.
It's 4.
Okay, that's 1. 1 down. You got this. You got this. Visualize a 6.
Oh, it's a 3.
All
So
right.
I visualized in the wrong direction.
The bugs, you're trying to shake them off, but they're you have no idea where they're coming from at this point. You are covered. It is itchy and disgusting, and the noise in your head is pounding. You can feel blood trickling out of your ears as you are being driven mad by this sound and this feeling that is consuming you. As you fall to the ground and this is just all overwhelming you, you can choose to embrace, escape, or resist. What do you do? The items you have
Hard.
left are the camping pack and the flashlight.
Okay. I'm thinking like the absolute like tornado of like thrashing limbs and screaming and freaking out that like Aetherius would experience in this situation of being like covered with bugs, and they're louder too, which like adds like a whole thing to it. But the experience in the lake, because that was so distinct, because that felt like there's like a familiarity to that. I think that Isiah is he's gonna roll the metaphorical dice. He may roll actual dice. We'll see. So it is embrace. What are the options again?
Embrace, escape, or resist. If you escape, you essentially are going to be like running out of the woods.
Got it. And then if I resist, what happens mechanically?
Resisting your fear is when you use one of the items that you have to destroy it. Whereas embracing it is accepting that this fear is a part of you. It's a very low mechanics game. It's all like...
Yeah, no, but it's like somehow the stakes are higher. I'm going to attempt to embrace. I'm going to attempt to embrace that this very rational fear of being covered in bugs is just a part of Isiah.
Okay. You're on the ground, and at first you were fighting against it, trying to get them off of you. But as you, like, embrace it, remember what happened in the water. This isn't real. And this is perfectly natural to be afraid of bugs, especially in this situation where they're overwhelming you. That sound starts to dissipate, and you look down at your hands, shaking. They slowly steady, and you see that there is one little spider that's crawling over your hand, but the rest are gone. They were probably never there. But you accept this part of you, and you come out on the other side of it.
I think I'm going to slide down a tree, like put my back to it and kind of exhaustedly
Sure.
the relief that is just kind of coming in waves from not hearing the deafening sound, not feeling like I'm covered. I think I'm gonna flick the one spider into oblivion. I flick the one spider to the moon.
Amazing.
And I think this requires like he needs a reset here before he kind of stands up on his legs, which are a little wobbly. But he's gonna do a deep like diaphragm breath, like a okay. And then he's gonna look to the like immediate area to see if he sees signs of the fire that was going out.
As you look ahead in this moment of like trying to catch your breath, calming yourself, you're fine. You look forward and you do see the flicker of light, and it's actually a little bit closer than it was when you had like this breakdown. And you look behind you, the pack is still like very far off, but you can see it dangling from the tree. You see a large shape near the tree. And then after a few moments, the pack is like swiped by something. But you, ahead of you, you see the fire of your camp. What would you like to do?
I think Isaiah is going to lie in wait. He's going to move to where he feels a little bit more obscured and like isn't as out in the open. And he's waiting to see if whatever has swiped. I want to get close enough to at least have a view of kind of the campsite area and where the pack was. And I think he's going to just kind of wait in the brush, um, and he's going to watch to see if the whatever goes after the trail mix that's in the tent.
Okay. So you, uh, so you're going toward. Sorry, you're going towards the tent then, with the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As you head towards the fire and you hide in the brush, go ahead and give me another roll.
Be nice to me, dice. This is a nice dice song. 4! It works. She's gonna sing to him. That's it. That's all.
You notice that your pack was taken far off behind, but over by your fire, there doesn't seem to be, the shadow isn't there. Like, it walks around you. You hear the thumping noise make its way from back where your pack was to your campsite, and you can hear it around. And as you hide in the brush, you do see that there's a fairly large brown bear that kind of like gets a little close to the tent and seems to like sniff a little bit, but then backs off and heads back into the woods. How long do you wait here in the brush?
Um, I feel like a solid at least like 5 real life minutes you would wait
Sure.
and stare. Like, um, the idea of and like out of character for context, this is one of the fears that isn't mine really. I mean, I'd be afraid of a fucking bear, like who I
Sure.
but it isn't like, if someone asked me, it's not amongst like maybe like the top 5 or top 10, but that's changing the voice through the voice in the woods, so that's fun.
I'm doing the
um
worst job possible with this. I'm giving you fears instead of helping you.
I will say there's a lot of symbolism in the seaweed one, like being able to cut that. That is a real story. That happened to me. I'm not Blasian, but the details of that story, it did happen to me when I was like 7, I think. It was like, I'm too cool for a life vest. And then yeah, it was a whole thing. I am going to wait for 5 minutes, and I think particularly what Isaiah is waiting for is for the sound of the stomping and the kind of rustling outside of the normal forest rustling to stop. He seemed to have been able to identify when those sounds seemed to be coming from like a larger thing, or when something was moving. And so once that has not happened for 5 minutes, he's gonna like peek his head out and he's going to very slowly like approach the camp.
As you approach the camp, everything seems to be okay. You don't hear that stomping anymore. It is trailed off into the distance, far away from you. The fire is starting to get too low to where you might need to go get more firewood. You could try and turn in for the night, or you could also try and move farther into the woods, maybe move your camp now that you know that there is a bear around. Totally up to you. What would you do?
I mean, I feel like that would be real world advisable. I feel like forest rangers would say if you do encounter a bear, you should probably not like just leave you shouldn't just do nothing and go to sleep. And so even though it'll take some effort, I think Isaiah is going to go back. He's going to began kind of hastily and quietly disassembling the tent, putting everything back into the kind of like pre-assembled camping bag that he has. He's going to look to see if there's anything salvageable on kind of like the outside of the fire. Is there any wood that maybe didn't burn in its entirety that he could use? He doesn't find too much. But with his possessions in tow, and another 5 minutes of like bear listening, he is going to move in a different direction. He's gonna go to where he thinks, and I don't know what his like perception of this, but he wants to take a step towards civilization without leaving, and so he is moving in the direction, right or wrong, that he thinks the real world is.
Do you think that that would be like the direction you came in from, or do you think that he's trying to go through the woods? Are you going behind or are you going forward?
I'm going. I don't know, man. A lot of weird stuff has happened behind. So I'm gonna go forward.
Okay. As you travel forward further into the woods, go ahead and give me another roll.
No.
What we got?
That's a 1.
Amazing. Do you want?
I think it's the first one of the evening.
Would you like to try and use your dread die, or do you want to take the 1?
I feel like I have to, because anything I roll is going to be higher than this goddamn 1. So
I mean,
I'm gonna
you could also get a 1 or a 2 and then fail the roll and get a fear.
So what happens if I don't roll the dread dice?
Then,
just negative outcome?
Yeah, negative outcome from your current action, which is going deeper into the woods. I guess the thing to keep in mind is when you make these rolls, the first roll that you make is what happens in this real life context, whereas when we introduce the dread die, it's more facing your inner fears. So it's,
Got it.
you know, which battle do you want to have?
I mean, weirdly, I almost want to say the fears, because though challenging, we have like through some means made some progress. But the thing is that you can't self-actualize your way out of being lost in the woods. You can't just like, you know, I mean, technically you could, but you get what I'm saying. I think being lost in the woods in the real life is not a good look for Isiah. So I think I'm gonna roll the dread dice.
All right, go ahead.
Man, are these aptly named? Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. That's a 6. I got a 1 on the good one and a 6 on the bad one.
Well, that means you pass this roll. And maybe there are other consequences, but right now you just pass this roll. So as you're moving deeper into the woods, you actually are able to find a trail that looks like it has been traversed before, and you begin to follow this trail, hoping that 1, it'll lead to civilization, which is what you're trying to get at. And 2, maybe it will lead to another clearing where you could set up another tent potentially if civilization is too far outside of this direction. And you're feeling more confident. You're seeing like actual trail markers and things. So this idea that you are now in an area that other people do travel into. So you're feeling a little bit more confident. Like even if you did get into some trouble, maybe this is a campsite that people go to enough that you could get help, or there may be other people around. And as you move forward, you do sort of end up in a clearing that looks like it has been camped in before. There are like other previously used fire pits. There's even a entire stack of like dried wood that has been put up for people to use. There is a park bench in here under like a very beautiful flowering tree. Another thing you noticed is as you moved in this direction, the quality of trees in the area seemed to be fuller. They had more leaves on them. They looked less sickly. And you're in an area that, while it is dark, it is a beautiful like forest scene. This area, even though, as I said, the trees are a bit fuller, but in this little clearing, there is a moment where there are no trees above, and the night sky is just absolutely beautiful. What do you do?
I think we cut to Isaiah laid out on this park bench with the pack, like next to him. He's trying to relax, but he has his arm kind of hooked around the bag as he's laying, so that in the instance that he's still like he's trying to soak in some of like the beauty of nature to just calm his frayed nervous system, but he also has experienced enough this evening to still have like some wariness. And so I think that there is certainly a comfort that accompanies seeing signs of like other folks, and seeing the wood there, like knowing that apparently and hopefully he won't have to like make a separate trip to get some. Very much is staring up at kind of the night sky, which is it's unhindered by city lights, and is this gorgeous kind of visual cacophony of all these like stars, and it's super pretty. And so he gets a moment of peace in this. He tries to attempt for.
As you're laying there, taking in this moment of serenity and nature, you think about people have been here. This is a safe spot. Other people have been here. And you just start to kind of hyper fixate on the idea of other people. And it kind of trails your mind back to being in class, surrounded by other students. And you start to overhear people talking about their plans after school. You start to hear people talking about, oh, I got this internship. Oh, my parents are going to have me help out with their company. And you start to like hear like all these little things. And it kind of started softly and then progressively got a little bit louder. What did Isaiah go to school for?
Let's make him. This is going to be an Easter egg for a friend of mine. Shout out when you're watching this. I'm going to make them an English lit
Okay.
major.
And do they have a direction that they want to go in, or were they following their passion and studying like what they loved and not really thinking about where they wanted to go afterwards?
Yeah, I think it was very much that. They thought the next 4 years could be me, studying for a job that maybe I'll like, or I can roll the dice on something that may have good career prospects, but that I don't either find creatively or existentially like satisfying. And so they rolled the dice and went to school. This is the opposite of what I did, by the way. They rolled the dice and they're like, they have loved to read since they were incredibly young. They wrote their first chapter book with air quotes at the age of, let's say, five or six in kindergarten. They write this book. Of course, it's like misspelled and like illegible, but to them this is like War and Peace. This is like their magnum opus. um and so yeah, he went to college for 4 years. It was creatively and intellectually engaging in a way that made him really excited for this period of his life that he is in now. And it is that kind of accumulation of excitement, the fact that over time, yeah, there wasn't an exact plan. Yeah, he didn't really know where he was going to go, but he really met some of the best people in his life and wrote some really cathartic pieces over time. And so writing has really, really served as this like pressure release valve for when things have gotten to be too much. His inability to take this love, to take this passion, and to turn that into livelihood is like heartbreaking for him. He's looking for any kind of exception to this reality. He has friends, who have been published, and He's like weighing self-publishing, but things aren't where they thought they'd be. And so when he does talk to folks, when he does connect with classmates, or when he sees their stories on socials, and he sees that they are interning for, all of these places, and he gets these glimpses of folks who, yeah, have student loans, but at least are making inroads in a way that he's not towards paying some of those off. And so I think that that is difficult. That kind of living through the lens of comparison
Mm-hmm.
um, is like his own kind of means of like almost like emotional self harm in a way. Like it is not good for him to scroll through these stories and to see all of these people that he knows very well and friends that he had have this outcome that he didn't have, and yet he can't stop himself from doing it. It has become like uh just a routine thing, when you're like you are completely in autopilot and you're just like
Yeah.
scrolling through your phone. This is what he does, is he looks at the successes and the accomplishment and kind of like silently whittles away at himself.
You go to this place in your mind where you're doing that again, where you're comparing yourself to others and the failure you have endured, and how it just seems easier for everybody else. Why can't it be easy for you? And as you're getting kind of like caught in this mental spiral of, why can't things be easy for me? What's wrong with me? Why is this happening? You open your eyes and you're no longer in the woods. You're at a desk. You're wearing a very tight white buttoned up shirt. It's almost like suffocating you. There's a very tight tie around your neck.
Mm.
You look at your arms and you see shackles that are like ground into the desk in front of you, and you see a stack of papers, and you try to read it and it doesn't make any sense. It's just monotonous and bland with no life to the words. It seems like it's like a bunch of AI garbage that has been written that is like stacked in front of you. And you go to like turn your head and you can't. There's something holding your head, making you look straight down at this. You go to close your eyes and you can't. There's something holding your eyes open. And you feel
Am I being
this
clockwork oranged right now? Okay.
and you feel this like anxiety of, you can't escape this. And you try and like move out of it, and then the papers in front of you change. There's like a ruffle that goes through them, and now you see your work, but you see like this over exaggerated red stamp on it that just says rejected. And as you like push papers out of the way, everything has just rejected on it. Rejected. There is a moment where now you look up from the papers and you see yourself standing in front of you. Why can't it be easy for us? What do you do?
I think the other kind of inexplicable experiences kind of shared a thread insofar as like they were all like nature related, and so in his mind, even as like implausible as it is, he could ride on the like, I'm tired, I'm in the woods, and thus, you know the bugs and these other things. Like, I'm tired, he's not like the most camp centric person, and so this kind of solo venture is something that he has like regretted more and more over the night. There have been a few moments of like sincere catharsis, the moments in which he feels like that rush of relief after seeing the one spider or cutting the seaweed. This, I think, has hit him in a much more visceral way, right? Like even the like reptile fight or flight that activated with the bear, there's something about this that feels like uh its familiarity makes it that much more nefarious. There's something about this, while obviously like exaggerated, especially with like the shackles and the eyes being open. um and so he is in his mind trying to make sense of this. um and is I think that like in real life, like I'm immersing my, if you see a version of yourself, I think like the something would happen there. I think something would happen in I don't know if the human brain like 404 is there or like what
Sure.
happens, but like I'm imagining like that's not supposed to happen, right? Like yes, there are mirrors, yes, 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 but like seeing a you that is fully independent of yourself and that is communicating with you would be very jarring. And so I imagine he is just like with the clockwork orange things and the shackles and not being able to look, is like staring directly at this version of himself over the pile of rejected features and trying to ascertain like how much of this is real, if this is a dream. I don't know if you've ever done that thing where you're like in a dream that you don't want to be in and you're like just desperately trying to wake yourself up.
Yeah, yes,
um
very relatable.
right, like that's my sleep paralysis right there. So he is, I think that like in the absence of in the absence of like an explanation that is grounded in the reality that we already accept, we are going to try to fill in the blanks to make that the case, to make this somehow fit within the confines of an existing experience that we had. The human brain really likes to make connections, and in this instance, when it is a tired and b unable to identify a thread between this current horror and the experiences that this person has had outside of the woods and inside of the woods. um there's something about this that has raised his internal temperature higher than anything else that has happened this evening. The seeing and being confronted with himself, having his some of his worst fears realized, and the rejection of, I'm gonna put that like the book. Oh, you know what, we're gonna give him a book that he's been writing and has had difficulty finishing, right? And it's been now years and he's looking for like a good ending or a good maybe like last third of this book. And I'd like to think that what was rejected was that he finally, was able to produce something. And this is, yeah, the idea of digging deep, producing that, like actually moving past this creative block. There's like a victory in that. And then seeing that rejected, I think, would be a real blow to morale, I imagine. I don't think, that'd be
Yeah.
really, there's some emotional difficulty, I think, in navigating that. And so there is a very visceral, very like psychological response to this as Isaiah's brain is scrambling overtime to frame this in a way that makes sense. And in its inability to do so, it's going from DEFCON 4 to like DEFCON 5 now.
Absolutely. Go ahead and make 3 rolls with your dread die to try and overcome this fear.
Come
And let it
on,
not
dice.
take you.
I shouldn't have got that 6 out of the way in the beginning.
That was really funny that you rolled a 6, like the first, just right out.
And never again. Okay, so that's a 5 for the first.
That's close.
You remember
That's
6?
close.
You remember 6, don't you, buddy? 6! That's a 6! Woo!
All right. In this moment, you're shackled here. Your eyes are held open. You see the rejection. You see yourself in front of you. What's wrong with us? We're worthless. We're not talented. We're not good enough. There is a voice in the back of your head. I am good enough. I am talented. You're wrong. And as you feel that, the shackles come off of you, the metal around your eyes falls away. Your clothes return to something that are more comfortable that you would generally wear. The clothes that you are wearing as you walk through these woods, and everything falls away. The office starts to disappear and kind of blur in the background, but you are left there with this version of yourself that is saying these untruths. What do you say to him?
I think he is probably, if not like silently crying, is fighting back tears at this point. I think that everything that had happened up until this had kind of has been fraying at him, finding some sense of eternal affirmation and internal validation through feeling like I am good enough. I think he's just going to look at his like forest doppelganger and say, "You're wrong."
As you say that, he kind of like takes a step back and just looks at you and says, "What did you say?"
I said, "You're wrong." He's a little bit more forceful this time.
As you do that, you actually like see him like start to crack. Little, like a porcelain doll, little cracks start to form. You don't know what you're talking about.
You are wrong. Things may not be the way that I would like them to be now, but it does not consign me to a fate of unoriginality or lack of success. So you're wrong. Things are shitty now, but they won't always be.
He bursts into a million pieces, and the shattered remnants start to clatter to the ground. And as they do, it fades, and you are once again back in the woods. And there's that beautiful night sky above you. And that's where we're going to go ahead and take our break for this evening. We'll be back soon.
Oh my gosh.
I hope you guys are enjoying this.
I know I am. It is so good. I am in awe of this system. It is so much fun.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys back in a minute. Bye.
Table Talk is not your typical D&D TTRPG podcast. We are not here to run you through our whole campaign.
We're here to talk about everything else in the space of tabletop roleplay.
I'm your host, Alejandra Wilhelm.
And I'm also your host, Mariah Gresham.
And we're your tabletop roleplay girlies.
You sell dice? I'll take like 10 of them. My budget's set to $50,000, but that is dwindling. Each booth I hit, $200 is a minimum. Bag isn't empty, filled with games, I'm never playing them. I must be Jenny D, all the brand deals that I'm rolling in. You can call me Dr. Meeple, cause I got many men invested in this hobby. Next con, you know I will attend. VIP access badge, cause I influence me. Go cast wish. You could never ever rock a con like this. Grit like me. Go cast wish. You could never ever 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 rock a con like this.
Dear Rainier, greetings. I trust this letter finds you in good health and high spirits. Word has reached my keen ears that you are in pursuit of a most intriguing endeavor, venturing into the perilous realms of the Nine Hells. Well, my dear friend, fate has a curious way of bringing like-minded individuals together, for I find myself harboring a new, similar ambition. You see, I have come into possession of a most extraordinary journal, a tome brimming with insights and secrets, concentrating on the Nine Hells, gifted to me by the legendary spell spinner himself, Mordenkainen. After a bit of persuading from dear Elminster, however, as the saying goes, 2 heads are better than 1. And in this case, 2 ruggedly handsome rogues are infinitely better than a solitary researcher. Now, the proposition I lay before you is simple yet profound. Would you be inclined to join forces with me on this daring expedition? I believe that our combined knowledge, skills, and maybe a band of intrepid adventurers could make this journey not only possible, but perhaps even successful. The contents of the journal are as tantalizing as a freshly brewed potion, but I must confess that navigating the treacherous landscapes of the Nine Hells requires more than scholarly acumen. It demands bravery, resourcefulness, and a fellowship forged in the crucible of adversity. Picture it, Rainier. An alliance between 2 indomitable spirits, backed by a cadre of brave souls drawn to the allure of the unknown. Together we shall unravel the mysteries of the Nine Hells and emerge victorious, our names etched in tomes of history, and sold under my name, of course. I eagerly await your response, and should you agree to embark on this extraordinary journey with me, let us meet at a place of your choosing to discuss the finer details. Yours in anticipation, Volothamp Gadam.
My dearest Volo, long has it been since I've had the pleasure of your letters. A mistake I prayed we would not make again. My past has been weighing on me, and a trip to the Hells is a wink from the gods if I ever saw one. Of course, I'll agree to nothing I don't hear proposed with your own tongue, Volo. Traversing a landscape of contracts and legal pitfalls, with a man so eager to sign his name on anything that's offered. That sounds like a crackerjack riot to me. I have recently partnered with 2 agents that shadow me in my adventures. One is a paladin with a capital D, likes to spit in the face of kings, but is also stiff for the rulers. The other is much more dangerous, for she has sway with whomever she meets, and I cannot help but swim in the silver pools of her influence. They should be perfectly suited for going to hell. A place of my choosing, If left to my druthers, I shall always be of a mind to suggest our old haunt. Meet me in the dark vault of Waterdeep, seated in our corner of the Skewered Dragon. Drinks are on you, Renee.
Hey everybody,
Okay.
welcome back to the stream. We are playing a very fun game called The Voice in the Woods. I'm Jenel, and I've been playing The Woods. Aetherius has been playing our protagonist. And we've faced some quite terrifying fears already. I think maybe this would be a good time to kind of like check in with our character sheet and kind of like go over some stuff that maybe we've already, just...
A few moments later.
Hi, can you guys hear us now? Can you hear us now? Now we're good?
We're good.
Well, I guess that means last time we were on the scene, in the beginning of the game, they couldn't hear us either. Well, that's not great.
I feel like they got the gist.
Sure.
Maybe.
All right, so as I was saying, sorry you guys didn't hear the whole spiel before, but we were going over what has happened so far, how that has kind of been reflected on the character sheet. We faced 3 fears so far. We just most recently faced the failure in transition to post-college life, and that one was overcome in a very spectacular fashion. That was amazing. We faced the depths of the ocean and drowning, and you resisted that fear with the aid of the carving knife. And then we faced the insect fear that you embraced as a very natural thing to be scared of, because that makes tons of sense.
Bugs suck.
Do you have any feelings about where your character is right now mentally and how they're feeling, and maybe about the things that you've seen?
Yeah, I think that, well, first of all, I'll say this. I have to give this game like a glowingly positive review. Nothing but extremely positive things to say about this. And I'm sure we'll share the information. If you are watching this, run this with your friends, because if it seems fun to watch, I can tell you and assure you that like experiencing it is exhilarating, as Lunar said in the chat.
If anybody in the chat does !game, all the information about where you can get the game will come up.
I need to oh no, I have it. I'm like, wait a second, I've already got access. But yeah, I think what is, and this is, I think, like a testament to your storytelling capability, that the scene in the office, the arguably maybe the most mundane of all the settings, or maybe the most kind of regular or safe, especially given like the buggy drowning woods or whatever you want to call it. Being able to keep that, and I'd say even increase that level of like psychological tension in a normal space like that, I think was like a remarkable pivot. It was very, very good the way that you have been able to do that. And I said this at the outset. No, initially when I first did this, Jenel first sent this to me, I listed 1 through 6 my biggest fears, like me, Aetherius.
That would have been
my
so
biggest fears.
difficult to do.
That one I might feel, and Jenel did a really good job. She checked in with me during the break. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Aetherius is having a blast. Like, I think Isiah is probably forever changed by the events of tonight. But for me, this is just, it's really, really, I've never ever had a role-playing experience like this, and I'm going to challenge myself between now and October of this year. I'm going to run this game with my 6 fears, from least to worst.
Nice.
I'm just gonna dive into it. Here we've encountered 2. I didn't throw all of them away. I had the fear of drowning and like just the deep ocean, and by proxy the stuff at the bottom of the ocean, which is like its own thing. And then the insects, household insects. There's not a bug I really vibe with. I mean, like, butterflies are cute aesthetically, but like, do I want a bunch of them in a high quantity around me? Probably not. Probably not. But I think we are finding Isiah confounded. I think, again, thematically, the first kind of couple of experiences that he had, like, if you weren't here with us, in the outset of coming into the woods, Isiah spotted 2 kind of pinpricks, 2 like little red eyeballs, and shined a light on them, and we were able to identify that they were just squirrels. And he'd kind of freaked out for nothing, on up to the drowning thing and these other things. And all of those, I think he could attribute to kind of forest craziness. Like, think of the last like maybe 30 to 45 minutes of the Blair Witch Project, how they kind of deteriorate down further and further. Like, to me, I think in his mind, he had categorized this experience somewhere in that. We discussed this before the break, that like, in the absence of a full picture, in the absence of like an explanation that makes sense to us in a way that we can accept, the human brain starts to fill in those blanks. And when it's unable to, it freaks out. And I think this last thing felt so confused. There's like a paradox happening. His worst fear, one of his worst fears, came to fruition in a way that in his mind he had built up to be apocalyptic, right? Like what anxiety tells us about the things that we're afraid of and about our capabilities and all of these things. And in facing it, he found this real sense of catharsis. Again, I'm trying to like ground this in terms of how I think like a human being would react in this situation. And I think that there's a lot of symbolic power in like talking to this other version of yourself, kind of the version that says all of the worst things, right? All of the negativity, the negative self-talk, like having a living avatar of that and then seeing it explode is probably wildly satisfying. That is to be a very kind of gratifying moment. But then I also think that there's probably something like psychologically complex about watching yourself explode. Like there's part of that I think he has enough to like, this was a net positive, but he is any kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? His resistance, his like capacity to deal with these is
like going on and like withstand all these things that keep happening.
Is whittling down a little bit. I think after this last one, he's still struck with like, I'm having a moment of catharsis and all of this like inexplicable horror, and I don't. The math ain't mathin' for Isiah. is the short of it.
All right, well, let's dive right back in then. You are once again laying down on this picnic table, looking up at a beautiful starry sky. You hear a couple birds, a few crickets. Nothing too alarming. You're kind of enjoying this moment. You've come back to yourself after that moment of speaking to yourself and telling you that you are worth it, that you are capable of what you want to do. You're kind of just like resting in this moment. And it's getting colder. And you haven't set up the tent yet here. And as beautiful as this starry sky is, at some point you're gonna have to go to sleep. You're exhausted right now. You've already pitched a tent somewhere else and had to pack that up and come here, and you were running through the woods and fighting all these mental battles, and now the exhaustion is really seeping into you. What would you like to do?
I think the combination of the cold and the exhaustion, feeling like both are increasing, would tell Isiah that he needs to do whatever he's going to do while he still has the capacity to do it. Because, like you said, I imagine at this point, after all of these things, all of this has been in one night too, that he is kind of fading quickly. So he is going to go kind of clear the brush again, make a space for the tent. He's gonna pop the tent up. There was like existing firewood in this place,
Yes,
right? Where
there
he's
was,
at?
There was
Okay.
piled firewood.
So he's probably going to like build a fire, at least warm up a little bit. I don't know if he would feel comfortable sleeping next to an untended fire, but he's okay building his tent next to one, like maybe like 10 or 15 feet away. So he is going to light the fire for both the source of light into these woods, to which he still doesn't understand, but knows to have a wariness of.
Okay.
And now that wariness is kind of almost like omnipresent, because the catalyst for all of these like experience has been so different that there's nothing he feels like he can steel himself against. The unpredictability here, I think, is a huge factor. And so he is going to build the fire, warm up a bit. He's gonna eat the trail mix. He left the rest of the food in like the one part still in the tree. Oh no, the bear has it. That's right.
Yeah, the bear took it.
The
Or
bear
something
took all
did.
my
Something swiped it.
my sandwiches and whatever was in there. So he's like gonna force himself to eat the trail mix out of like a survival instinct. It's been a lot. His body has been through a lot. So he's going to have some of that. And it's not even like the good dessert trail mix, which he loves. It's like the one that's mostly nuts with like an M&M occasionally. So he eats that. He considers putting out the fire, decides not to. And out of character, I don't want to Google this now because I'm like in this moment, but I'm so fascinated and I'm gonna Google like fire and bear camping safety after this, just to like so don't do any of the things you've heard Isiah doing. I'm basing this off of no knowledge base. We are just swinging for the fences. But with that being like a source of light, you know what he's going to do? He's going to build a smaller fire than he built last time, and one that seems like that it'll hopefully over time be self-extinguishing. He goes to the tent. He's going to put on like his kind of coat that he brought. He's going to wrap himself up in a comforter, and he is going to try to get some sleep.
Okay. As you try and drift off to sleep, give me another roll.
Oh,
roll
boy.
The dice.
Oh, jeez. 4!
All right. You are able to drift off to sleep. The fire, as intended, starts to burn down. And you go into this dream. What do you think Isiah normally dreams about when he has a good dream?
I think when he has a good dream, it's probably like him making out with like Idris Elba or something like comparable to that.
Sure.
So yeah, in his mind, like if he could choose a dream, if he could go through the repertoire, he wants Idris this evening, but something tells me like this.
You, in your dream state, find yourself on a date with Idris Elba. You guys are sitting at dinner. You guys are having like a beautiful steak dinner with lots of accompaniments. A waiter walks over and pours a glass of wine and hands it to you to taste. To make, is this to your liking, sir?
Yes, I'd like to think that, like, even though the wait staff and all this stuff is happening around us, Idris and I haven't like acknowledged the outside world here in our love
Just
bubble.
really tuned into each other.
Yeah. So I just kind of like give almost an incoherent like yep to the waiter. I don't know if it's red or white and could care less. So yeah, I'm gonna sip my wine and like enjoy this moment.
Okay. As you're having this lovely dream of this beautiful date, you start to hear something in the back, and you're trying to ignore it, but there's like this scratching sound that keeps happening. As that's happening, are you trying to like push that away? Like you're trying to focus on this very nice time you're having and not pay attention to that?
100%.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he's like, I'm sorry, Idris.
Okay.
But yeah, he's trying to like compartmentalize like the, ignoring it. Like when you're having a good dream and you can kind of feel the distant pull of consciousness, you're like, no. So he's fighting.
Go ahead and roll to resist the real world ruining your dream.
Oh, yeah. Oh, come on. Dice, I need you. Like, there's been a time in which I've needed you to come through. Even though there have been like bear attacks and drownings and like giant insects, I need you to come through for this Idris Elba roll. There it is. What do we got? 5! Hey!
You continue to have this beautiful dream of you and Idris Elba. It gets spicy. You guys all have a great time. We make it to morning, where you start to arouse and wake up, and you hear like morning birds chirping. But as you open your eyes, expecting there to be a sun and brightness, it is still kind of seems dark, but you're also inside of a tent.
Is it still as cold as it was when I went to sleep, or is it a little bit warmer?
It's a little bit warmer.
Okay. I imagine he will probably keep the coat that he used as warmth to sleep on in this case. We're gonna do like, I'm gonna unzip the tent enough for his head to pop out, and he's going to, through the little unzipped hole, like take a look outside of the tent to see maybe if something's obstructing the light or why it's so dark.
You poke your head out of the tent, and it's not completely dark. You can kind of see what you assume is sunrise poking through the trees, but it's still mostly dark overhead. As you look around, you see on the trees near you, there are like these big scratch marks. What do you do?
Both Aetherius and Isiah in this moment are straining to try and remember like nature documentary they watched when they were a child to see if there's any framing for this. I guess that there is inevitably a sense of relief that those marks aren't on the tent or on Isiah himself. But it also kind of puts him on high alert. Like, we know definitively that there are bears in these woods and that they will walk up and interact with a campsite. And so he is wondering if the bear maybe followed him, and then he's confused because he's like, I absolutely housed the last of that trail mix. Like, I don't know what the bear would have been attracted to. And he is gonna, I think, go out and kind of like run his finger over the marks in the trees and like just try to get a feel for how big or strong this thing was.
You go over there and look at this mark and run your hand on it. There is some blood that kind of gets on your hands that is on this mark. And it doesn't look like... When an animal scratches something, you see a set of 2, 3, 4 lines that kind of go across, right? That is from some sort of paw or something like that. That's not what this looks like. There's like single scratches in different directions. And as I said, there's like a little bit of blood also on the tree. And as you look around, you notice there are a couple trees with this same sort of thing on it.
What the fuck? It's both in and out of character. I think knowing that and having that observation, I think his eyes are going to immediately go from the tree he's looking at to another tree, seeing that they are around. And then I think his eyes are going to go to the horizon. He's going to look and try to identify if he can see, because I imagine, right, through process of elimination, unless this bear is now a hatchet wielding bear, which is something I probably should have put on the fear sheet next time.
Hatchet wielding bear. Level 7 fear.
Yeah, is a bear with a hatchet that is giving me imposter syndrome. It's like hitting all of the fears. He is going to, because if they're going in different directions, like, yeah, in animal, I don't think would have, or at least none that he can think of, and so he's wondering if maybe this is some weird, like, esoteric, what do you call this? I was gonna say lumbering, but it's not that. Lumber yarding, lumber stuffing. He's He's wondering if there are lumber
like a
stuffers around. Like... Yeah, but what's the verb though?
Logging.
Is it lumberjacking?
No, it's logging. We're just
whatever the term is.
Okay, so you're looking around for someone who might be cutting down trees.
Yes, he's wondering if that is the case, or because of the health of the trees he saw at the outset of the forest, he's wondering if this is one of those things where they will like mark trees because they have either been affected by some disease or something. In fact, he tells himself it has to be that because he does not have the emotional wherewithal or fortitude for it to be anything else. Sure. And so his brain does a real like, well, that solves that. Definitely got to be somebody's lumberjacking around this area.
As you kind of come to that conclusion yourself and kind of take a step back, are you moving to one of these other trees, or are you kind of just going back to your camp?
I want to go to at least one other to have like a basic comparison. Okay. And I'm wondering, is there any particular like discernible pattern in these trees? Do they all appear to be going in one direction? Is there any like correlation between the scratches? Don't seem to be any kind of like symbols or anything like that, right?
No, they don't seem to be any recognizable symbols. And as like you do kind of clock, you could like, if this was a connect the dots sort of thing, there's definitely a path you could clock where you can see the line from this tree to the next tree to another one. It does seem like somebody went in a path and marked trees. It's not like an entire area of marked trees. It's like a single walking path of it. As you investigate the other tree, go ahead and give me your roll.
I got my Aegis roll, so I'm just like that. You know, I can.
You got the most.
Even if I get murdered in this forest, at least I had one good dream. You know, that's a 4.
All right. As you make it to this other tree, now you can kind of see a little bit farther into the woods. You notice that there is a deer, a stag, a male deer with antlers, and it has been like marking them, and its scalp is bloody, and it seems like one of them is like partially off, and there seems to be something stuck in its head where like the antlers are like bloody, and it may have been, going at these trees trying to get whatever that is off, but it probably was only pushing it farther in.
I think Isiah feels like a pang. I think up until maybe fourth grade, Isiah wanted to be a veterinarian. And so he feels like some kind of like sad, almost maybe like kinship. Like, yeah, these woods fucking suck, buddy. Like, I think he's gonna look at the deer. As he feels like conflicted emotions. One, he feels like some like empathy for the deal, but two, I think that there is like a sincere relief. Again, I think that at this point, especially because he has now had some rest, Isiah is probably processing and wondering how much of the last evening's events were real. I think the moment of him like basically telling his own negative self-talk to go fuck off and watching it explode is particularly like resonant in his mind. So there's almost this hope that he knows that obviously there isn't a second him, but he, I think, is grasping with the surrealism that this forest has presented. But seeing that it's just a deer would allow him to relax his shoulders just a little bit.
Does he have any urge to approach and help the deer, or does he kind of leave it to itself and go back to your campsite?
I think he's gonna do kind of, this is relatively half-hearted because his expectation is for the deer to book it. He's gonna do one of those like Jurassic Park approaches where it's like,
Yeah, got it.
He's like, hey, buddy. And he sees that the deer's clearly got something that is logged in there. And he's walking very slowly to see how close he can get before the deer runs.
Go ahead and give me a roll as you try and approach the deer. Been rolling really well.
6!
Damn! All right, so you are able to make your way to the deer, and you actually like calm it down. You're able to like get a hand on it, and it relaxes. It doesn't take off. It almost like you have this moment where it almost seems like you two are breathing the same. Like you feel its like anxiousness, and you have this connection where you get it on your breath, and you're able to pet him, calm him down. And now you can finally look at like the head wound. And it seems like there is something like a shiny, like a metal that is stuck at the base of one of his antlers.
Oh no. And now that we have like some level of trust, I'm gonna try to pet him and then get a better look at what's lodged in there.
As you're looking at it, it kind of seems like something that was metal clearly broke off of something, because it has like a very jagged side that's like coming out. Like you can tell it's like broken. It's not like a solid object. The best you can guess is maybe like he hit like a low roof of some sort of shed and maybe like got something in there, or maybe like there was just like some debris that it's kind of hard to tell with like all the blood that's like kind of pooling there. You can tell it's been there for a while. Like there's like some crust that's starting to get up on there.
Both in and out of character again. I'm like, is it better to leave this? I feel like if this was a human, depending on the size of the metal object like protruding from their body,
I will say it's not like huge. It's probably only like this big, and it's not fully lodged in there. It's like pretty shallowy in there, but it clearly looks like it's cut him up. Definitely annoying, and he kind of made it worse by hitting his head on the trees.
Oh, little buddy. I think that there is no kind of talking the deer through this. So I think instinctually he's going to like kind of put his chest to the side of the deer, I don't know how tall deer are compared to like I'm really exposing my extensive nature knowledge on the stream. And so he's going to like continue that kind of in sync breathing with the deer, and then he's going to make eye contact with it while he is reaching for it, and in a quick but not jerky motion, he's going to pull the little piece out.
Okay, go ahead and give me a roll as you try and
That's my luck up.
do surgery on this deer. Not really, you just like blown out.
Oh no!
What we got?
Fuck me! I got a 1.
All right. Would you like to use your dread die?
Oh, dread die. It's been a while. Oh boy. So I need a 1 or 2.
If you have a 1, you need a 3 to pass. So if you get a 1 or a 2 on your dread die, you're still gonna fail.
Okay. So I don't need a 1 or 2. All right, here we go. Wait.
A
Part
3,
of me
4,
is
5,
like
or 6, and you pass.
I'm when I rolled so low too, that this, like, I feel like if maybe I gotten a 3, I might be more inclined to just kind of roll with it, but I don't know. Dude, I feel like a deer can fuck you up. I feel like a deer can, like, especially like one this big.
I would say you fail this, you're gonna be injured afterwards for sure.
Okay.
You're not getting out of this unscathed if you don't pass that roll.
I don't even want to look at it when I roll it. Oh, 3.
Okay. So you pass the roll, but a 3 is higher than a 1. So we will see what happens with that. But you are able to very quickly kind of like pull the metal out. You keep eye contact with the deer, and it immediately, you can tell like it felt like some relief from that. And you're able to kind of like back up. And then once you're a couple feet back, the deer sort of gets back up, shakes its head, and kind of scampers back off into the woods. And you are left with this piece of metal that has like the blood on it a little bit. And looking at it, you notice that the metal sort of looks similar to the tip of your own carving knife. Like it kind of has like the Damascus steel that like has the special like oil slicks in it. And you can tell very clearly that this piece of metal is like from a knife.
I think this is the first inclination of a human threat, I think, or like a potentially human threat, or at minimum, even if whatever did this to this deer isn't out to get him, like, whatever the circumstances are, someone who stabs a deer in the head is pretty lame in my book. I think it's a lame thing to do to like a defenseless deer. So he's wondering if maybe he has crossed into maybe some kind of like wildlife sanctuary or retreat or something, or maybe he's on a hunting ground. That would explain the presence of the existing camp and how like well stocked it was, and the fact that there was like dry wood and picnic tables and benches. And he didn't remember like reading about or seeing any like animal sanctuary or hunting ground in this space, and so I think it's like a weird thing, but overall I think the emotional release from, I imagine that because of this kind of empathic connection with the deer, like when the deer feels this sense of release, being able to pull that out, he's like feels some amount of dopamine from having been able to help to do something. And so I think he is going to throw it down.
You go ahead and you throw the medal down with all these different thoughts, the relief from the deer and kind of, being a little bit proud of the fact that you just did like help an animal in the woods and that's kind of bolstering you. The strangeness of the fact that it was clearly from a knife, but just throwing it down, getting rid of it, whatever. You're going to be out of the woods soon anyways. It's morning. And as you're walking back to your camp, is it morning? Because it's getting darker. You notice that what you thought was a sunrise appears to be a sunset as it actually goes back below the horizon, and you are very quickly once again in complete darkness. And I do mean complete darkness because the way back to the camp, you weren't that far away from it, but you can't find it now. And you're walking around and you're looking at the trees. And before, where I said there were, a couple trees that had the marks and the blood on them, all the trees you see have huge slashes in them. These are not from antlers, and there is blood seeping out of the trees. What do you do?
I use the knife to get rid of the seaweed. And did I use the flashlight? Have I used that?
You have not used the flashlight, technically the camping pack was hung up, but we haven't used it to face a fear necessarily. But so you have the flashlight and the camping pack, kind of.
I think with this level of darkness, the flashlights become like a necessity. And I was just in this forest and I just saw these trees and they were not weeping blood 10 minutes ago. It was also sunrise 10 minutes ago. And so I think that there would be this kind of encroaching fear with everything having happened last night. If it was like the wilderness making him crazy, if he did go like Tom Hanks Castaway insane or anything like that, he would have wagered that after getting a good night's rest, he would be fine. Because really, that's what he chalked much of this up to, was exhaustion. A lot of what he was seeing and experiencing was his exhausted brain. That doesn't make sense to him fully, but again, it's faced with the unexplainable, his brain is doing its best to try to form some semblance of an explanation for last night's and this night's, apparently, because it's getting dark again, the events.
You start to hear footsteps behind you.
Oh shit. He's gonna spin and shine his flashlight in that direction. He had the fight, flight, or fight, and he doesn't know if he's gonna fight it yet, but he is he's fighting the instinct to bolt, and instead, after seeing the tricks of the lights before, he's hoping that this is that. He's gonna shine his direction.
As you turn around where you heard footsteps, you shine a light. You don't see anything there, and you take a couple steps back and you bump into something and you feel breath on your neck.
And I depressingly know that's not Idris back there. Yeah. I think a chill kind of goes down Isaiah's spine in that fight, flight, or freeze reflex that had just kind of got up when he turned and looked. These things are kind of now compounding. So this is an emergency on an emergency. He is simultaneously going to try to take a step forward, move forward away from this thing, and also turn at least his gaze, if not his whole body, toward whatever or whoever this is behind him.
Go ahead and make a roll for me.
All right. 6.
You step away, turn around. You're able to get far enough away that this thing is not touching you anymore, but you do notice, like, on your sleeves there is now blood that had been soaking into the back of you, and as you put the flashlight up, it goes across a very imposing man covered in blood. There is a mask on his face that is sort of broken in the corner, and there's like this scarred jaw that you can kind of see sticking out, and he is holding in both hands a knife. In one hand it is a fully large like machete, and in the other one you see that it is a broken Damascus knife.
You deer stab. I'm not saying this, but Aetherius is like, you deer stabbing son of a bitch. How dare you? We have not done this evening. This is the first time this has felt like having this full-on horror movie response. I think Isiah is going to literally take off screaming. He's screaming bloody murder, and is sprinting away from this guy.
Go ahead and make a roll as you try and get away.
4.
You sprint into the woods. You feel a hand kind of like jut out towards you, but you're able to like pull out of it really easy, and you're running through these woods. All of them are marked up. Like you're running around. You cannot find your way back to your camp, but you are also you were not captured there, but clearly are being pursued. You can hear the footsteps behind you getting closer and closer, the running. Okay, now it's time to roll your the dread dice. So you get to roll 4 times now, I think? Yes. You get to roll 4 times. And we just need a 6 on one of them for the fear not to consume you.
It's a 5, close.
So close.
It's a 4, not the right direction, not the direction we need. We don't love that for us. I'm like, you need to know how math works, dice. That's a 2. This feels personal. No. It's like I gave you Idris. You burned all of your goodwill this evening. That's a 2. So.
Okay, you're running. The footsteps are catching up to you. You're getting exhausted. You go to hide behind a tree. The running's getting closer, and that stops. You don't hear anything for a little bit, and after a minute or so, you peek your head out behind the tree, and it is right there. The mask is in your face. The hands are on you. You're being pulled. You feel cuts into your arm. You look down. You're bleeding profusely. You feel the pain. You look up into this terrifying face. This mask inches from your face. Do you choose to embrace, escape, or resist with one of your items?
Okay. I'm doing some horror movie math. I'm running the numbers presently. Embrace in this case, like drowning, seems maybe ill-advised. I think that and this is something that would probably fascinate even him. I think that if he really had wanted to escape enough, he would have made the decision to do so at some point along the way. And so I've kind of been, to me, it is between embrace and resist. Like the one wherein there is this fear of like, what if I'm not good enough? What if I do the thing that has been inside of me and I present that to the world and that's not good enough? Like, that is something that I think he's profoundly like happy to an extent, as happy as you could be in this situation, to have worked through. But here I'm wondering, like, you kind of should be afraid of
a murderer?
Masked men, period. TBH. If any man rolls up on you who you don't know in a mask and doesn't have an immediate explanation, run. Go the other way. Don't take the chance. It's probably fine, but do you want to roll those dice? And so I'm leaning towards embrace. I could resist and flash the flashlight in his eyes.
You can also hit him with a flashlight. Flashlights are heavy.
Oh, that's right. I feel like I'm gonna live to regret. Maybe I won't, actually. I'm gonna take a swing at him with the flashlight. I'm gonna try to use my full force to hit him.
You use the flashlight to resist, and you just look this monster in the face and take your flashlight and whack him on the head. First thing that happens is the mask breaks and falls away, and you see that this just very scarred person, and once again you look into the eyes and you see that it is yourself with these scars all over your face, and you see that the scars kind of start to run down their neck and they stumble back. What do you do?
That I gotta, just as a player, that was oof. Like, as I gotta walk through like the emotional reaction to that. That's good. Like, as Aetherius, I'm thinking about like the idea of being chased by a mass killer, and then it being, oh geez. So it's unmasked. What is it? Well, I don't want to say am I. Is this other Isiah continuing like the murderous pursuit? Are they standing? Like, what's their reaction?
You read on its face shock that you attacked it. It wasn't expecting you to fight back.
Wow. I am going to try to smash the head in of this serial killer version of myself. I am going to try to use this flashlight to just obliterate, because I know it can't be me because I'm me, and we don't, like, he doesn't have the bandwidth to get more existential about what if that, like, he is just going to assume that the consciousness he inhabits is his own. And after having destroyed the previous version of himself, I think in this moment, the fear and the exhaustion and the confusion is boiling into rage, and so he is going to take all of this out. So I'm going to run and try to tackle my serial killer self.
You tackle him, you get on top, and you start hitting him with this flashlight. You keep going, letting your rage out until it is a bloody mess beneath you and the body is motionless. And as you kind of sort of collapse from the exhaustion that you just exerted and the adrenaline that's still coursing through you, you close your eyes and then you open them. And you're not in the woods. You're in a room. And your hands are smaller. Could you describe Isiah's childhood room?
Yeah, Isaiah has a bunch of clouds that have been painted on his ceiling. Um, his mom isn't like the greatest artist, but he begged her for clouds, like would not let this go. And so she has done her best to get up there and to paint some clouds. At some point, she even let him get up on the step ladder, and so there's one cloud that's like very, very like not well done or structured, and you can tell that this is the one that Isaiah did. He has a shelf lined with books. Already at this age, he enjoys reading. We'll say he's got some Goosebumps. I'm trying to think of like what the good book series were back in the day. Goosebumps was like
and Animorphs.
yes, hell yeah. If you could get it from a book fair, like oh my god, yes. He got one of those like Animorph packs from the Scholastic Book Fair where they wheel in those things and create a little circle in your school's library. And they are like pretty much his prized possession. He loves to do that thing you can do with Animorph books where you kind of go through the flip book that's in the corner. And so all of them are well worn. You can see that these books have been read multiple times over. They are dog-eared to all hell. He has got a pretty normal sized bed. We're gonna give him Aladdin themed like bed sheets. And so his comforter has got Aladdin and Jasmine on it. His two pillows each have the Robin Williams genie on them. And then he's got a nice little night table next to his bed with a lamp. And on that, he is sitting on the edge of it one of his action figures, one of his like Max Steel action figures. And I see in the chat someone said Encyclopedia Brown. We're gonna throw Encyclopedia Brown in the mix. So yeah, I would say that's what his childhood room looks like.
You find yourself now, you kind of like roll over, you're looking up at those clouds. You feel safe. That sort of anxiety is gone. And you kind of get glimpses of memories. You're running through your house laughing. There's a moment where you and your family are eating a meal and everyone's very happy. There's a tough moment where you're a child and you're injured and your father is tending to your wound, but it's comforting and it's safe. And then you find yourself now standing outside their door, and you're an adult. And that like feeling of belonging isn't as strong, and you're kind of just looking at your front door.
I think Isaiah is perhaps intelligent enough to realize that there is a pattern here, that so much of the events of the last like maybe 16 hours or however long it's been have been him surprising himself once, I think, with his like resiliency, both physical and emotional. But two, I think it has been, he's proved a lot to himself. I think that he's had a very effective night of exposure therapy to many of his worst fears. And I think staring at this door, feeling some of that familiar like fear come up, he has a slightly different relationship or reaction to it, which is to kind of breathe instead of like in the immediate, allowing the adrenaline to take the driver's wheel and allowing all of like the anxiety about, you know, worst case scenarios and doing what is it called, catastrophizing and taking everything and bringing it to its most negative result. I think in this moment he feels afraid, but not incapable, and not, I think he is grounded in a way that only being chased by a murderer and going through all of these things would do. He's buckling up, and he, again, doesn't understand what is happening, but I think at this point he's got to notice that there is a little bit of a pattern. The idea that all of these things, which feel so hyper personalized, which seems so individualized to him, he doesn't understand what's happening, but there's part of him that feels like a lot of what he's gone through has prepared him for this moment, for where he is standing, and for I think he begins through context clues to imagine what's on the other side of the door, but he's just gonna knock and see instead.
Go ahead and roll 6 times with your dread dice. And we need one of them to be a 6 for this last fear.
Okay. Dude, am I sweating at this last one? Okay, here we go. That's a 1. We don't love that. We don't love that.
Just need 1 6.
That's a 2. Okay, I'm liking the direction. That's a 4. Okay, I think we're doubling each time. I'm gonna somehow get an 8 on this next one, right, dice? That's a 5.
Come on.
How many have I done? 1, 2, 4, 5. Okay, I got 2 more. Please, please. That's a 1. God damn it. I think I've gotten every result but 6. I'm giving this one in like an extra long shape. It's a 2.
You knock on the door after this brief moment of feeling like everything has led to this, but you can't shake that fear. What if they don't accept you? What if you're never gonna feel that sense of belonging with your family again? And it starts to take over, and it starts to take over. Do you choose to embrace, escape, or resist?
I'm trying to think of what resist would even look like. And the only thing I can think about is him holding up the camping supplies, being like, look how straight I am. Look how hetero. And I don't think that's
I'm trying to craft this emotional moment. You're just like...
It is very effective, and I'm just like running through his options. I think in this instance, I think that what you said really touched on it. I think that for him, many of the like fears that he's encountered tonight have again been like on a reptilian brain level, have really like our most base brain, that limbic system. But here, like, I think that what we are looking at is not only like the like coming out to his parents and navigating that experience. There's some part of him that feels like even if whether they accept him or they don't accept him, there's a sense of loss at some of those memories. Like he'll never be 7 or 6 years old in that room with the goosebumps, like, you know, flashlight reading under the covers. Like he'll never have those experiences again. And I think that there is a moment of like contemplation at time past and at and even if things go well, and he doesn't necessarily have reason to believe that they won't, I think this is a really good example. For context, Isiah, over the years and throughout college, came out to his best friends, his chosen family. He did the thing that so many queer people do, where you go to your safest person and then kind of work your way out from there. And with every affirmation and with every like positive response, it becomes easier and easier. This is unfortunately the exception to that rule, because he's very much catastrophizing. The facts, objectivity, right? Just real life. Like his mom loves Drag Race, right? Like he's seen like his family interact with queer culture before, but that's different than their, in his eyes, perfect son being gay. And so whatever happens on the other side of this, I think he's having that realization that no matter what happens here or how this goes, things will never be the same again. And there's part of that is just a part of life, right? Like we can look and cherish and love and have these memories, but focusing so much on their preservation at the expense of making new ones and moving forward in life is what he, I think, ultimately is seeing himself stare down the barrel of. And so with a little bit more chutzpah, you know, like he's still afraid. There's no discounting the fear. That uncertainty will scare him until he gets to the other side of it. And waiting and navigating that, I think, is excruciating. And so it's time, for better, for worse. Two possibilities exist, right? One, his worst case scenario happens, which he hasn't even fully thought out. And this is, again, like this is some real life anxious brain thing. He hasn't even walked through what he's afraid of, right? Like he hasn't sat down and objectively looked and really, because it's difficult. It's hard to take yourself out of your own emotional reality, irrespective of how much help and support you have. Sometimes, particularly feelings that are this deep, are just things that we have got to find a way to navigate. And to him, there's a paradigm shift. He's going to knock on the door, and this knock on the door is his first step forward in this new direction, and is emblematic of his commitment to moving forward and not looking back. And so whatever comes, hell or high water, he will deal with the responses.
You move forward despite the agonizing fear, and you knock on the door, and you choose to embrace this and know that it's not going to go away until you move through it, and you see what happens. The door opens and there is this bright light, and as you walk through and you feel this sense of relief of your commitment, you walk out of the woods. And it is a bright, sunny day.
Wow. Oh, I don't know if the camera will get these. I got a little goosebumps on that. I got some goosebumps. Oh, wow.
And that's our game.
Oh my god. Mwah! Perfect ending. Oh my goodness. Okay, I feel like I should send you an invoice, frankly, for like therapy.
This is a therapy session.
That was so I mean, I think, and I have spoken about this in interviews and at length about the catharsis we can find through role playing and how inhabiting and through inhabiting other people can really give us a lens and perspective on ourselves and on our lives and those around us in a way that's really hard to replicate. And this is probably one of the most profound, if not the most profound emotional reaction that I've had to like a TTRPG. Like, it definitely, I feel like, took me to some places. Really, like, I remember having a similar train of thought. Like, I didn't have a traditional come out story. There was like a lot that was like outside of my control, but the part that I was able to control, the one person whose opinion mattered the most to me, who I was, you know, the most worried about. Like, I remember the days and even the weeks of like agony, like leading on up to that. And like the sense of like joy and kind of, there's a joy in the foolishness of your previous self once you've done the thing and you look back and like you see how silly it was. And it's a real testament, I think, to like the distortion anxiety puts on our lens in life, and especially that catastrophizing piece. That is something that I still struggle with to this day, and I think being able to explore that through this, oh my god, so good, so good.
Well, I hope you guys all enjoyed it at home. I know we had a blast.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll see you next stream.
Yes, thank you so much. Also, follow this channel. Support Boss Jellybean, or else I will show up to your house and come out to your parents. That's not a good threat.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.